Jai Sri Radhe. This is Jagadananda Das speaking to you from Vrindavan Dham. And Vrindavan Dham is the place of bliss. And by Radharani's grace, I'm in the Dham. And my mind is fixed on the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani and the desire to engage in her service. I've been experimenting with these videos, and especially in today's age, communication has become a fine art. Generally speaking, when I approach Radha and Krishna topics, I have that kind of organic approach that whatever comes to my mind, I say it, and I'm not making PowerPoint presentations. So nowadays, most people like to have information presented to them in that kind of technical way, that you get the PowerPoints, this point, this point, this point, this point, and the entire argument can be built up on the shell, on the structure of those arguments. Now, I have those arguments, but they are interlinked in such a way that often to present everything, the desire to present everything at once overwhelms my mind, and I get short-circuited or go off on a tangent. Or sometimes, to give an example, I might go on a grand detour and in that way confuse my audience. And I know that that's something that people still don't get. There are a few people who understand, but on the whole, especially from the quarter of bhakti, from those people who are in the ISKCON and the Gaudiya Math, they are so invested in an anti-sahajya discourse that they can't even fathom what it is that I'm saying. Now, in my personal life, I started out in 1979 when I left ISKCON. My goal was to follow up on Raganuga Bhajan, and because I saw that as being the direction that Shastra was taking. And when I read Bhajan Rahasya by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, then everything became very clearly and logically laid out, and I realized that if the goal of Gaudiya Vaishnavism is to follow the path of the gopis, that it was necessary for me to extricate myself from the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which had a very rules and regulations or Vaidhi approach to bhakti. Now, this change that I made in 1979 was a complete departure from the Hare Krishna movement. Not a complete departure, you could say. This is the whole problem in a sense, is that if I had made a complete departure, that it would have been simple. But as it is, I seem to be keeping my feet in two boats, one boat being the Sahajya boat and the other one being the Orthodoxy boat. Is Sahajya something different from Orthodoxy? What is the difference between the two? What is the proposal of Orthodox Vaishnavism, and what is the proposal of Sahajya Vaishnavism? Now, according to most people who are followers of Krishna Bhakti, the idea is to become a resident of Vrindavan in the association of Krishna, to become, let me be one of the people there, let me be part of that world. Now, I've been saying, and this is how we get into problems, I've been saying that in my academic education, when I went to university and started looking at Krishna consciousness from an objective perspective. Now, and I was looking at it objectively, but objective from the point of view of someone who has been involved and experienced and who understands the teaching. Now, already when I came back to India, from India in 1985 and started going to university and studied the comparative religion and so on, and tried to understand what is the essence of religion, what is the goal, then it became clear to me that the goal has to be analyzed by objective criteria. Now, a theology might sound good, a philosophy might sound good, but we want it to have practical results. Now, normally religion fudges on these things. You know, we have, why do bad things happen to good people? You know, why, this is the lament of the faithful person, that I worship God and yet why am I suffering? The lament of Job in the Old Testament. And here I am. I've given my life to God and yet I'm still suffering, and still my wealth is taken from me, and the nature, the adi daivik, adi bhautik, and the adhyatmic miseries all torment me. What has been the use of my dedication to God? The whole of the Upanishad, the yoga, everything is about happiness. So if you're worshiping God and you haven't found happiness, then something is missing. God is Satchidananda Vastu. God is eternity, consciousness, and bliss. One who is at one with God is at one with eternity, at one with consciousness, and at one with bliss. So there is no possibility of one understanding and following the yoga path and not attaining the supreme consciousness of eternal bliss. So we have different paths, and in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, in the Sahajiya path, it's a combination of bhakti and yoga. Now that's what I'm going to talk about here, just in this short talk, because I'm trying to keep it short and clear and hope that somebody will get the message. Everything that you see in Gaudiya Vaishnava, up to and including Raganuga Bhakti, is all pravartaka stage. Why do I say that? Pravartaka stage means beginning stage. It's the same as Kanishta. So when we say Archi, that Shraddhayehate, Pujanyak Shraddhayehate, Natad Bhakteshu Chanyeshu, Sabhaktah Prakritah Smritah. So this verse is a bit of a conundrum, but let's look at it. It says that a person who is engaged with faith in worshipping the deity, but does not worship the bhaktas or the others, that person is said to be a prakrita bhakta. Now in this verse we have an implication of the madhyama and uttama stages, because it says natad bhakteshu chanyeshu. So bhakteshu, the attitude towards bhaktas, that's the madhyama stage, or it's an indication of the madhyama stage. And chanyeshu is an indication of the uttama stage, because as we know, the uttama stage is to see Krishna everywhere, to see God everywhere, to see the absolute truth everywhere, to see prema everywhere, to feel prema everywhere, in all circumstances, times and places, to everyone. That is the stage of siddha, prema. It's the stage of rasa. It's the ocean-like stage into which the fundamental unity of all things is perceived in a relationship of love. Natad bhakteshu is the madhyama stage. So in the madhyama stage we have Ishware tadadhineshu balisheshu tishatsu cha prema maitri kripopeksha yakaroti samadhyama. So a madhyama has these four particular states of relationship. So let's just talk about the kanishta for a minute here. One other way of looking at kanishta, madhyama, and uttama, or pravartaka, sadhaka, and siddha, those are the terms I'm using from Sahajiyism. Pravartaka, sadhaka, and siddha. So from the Sahajiya point of view, a person who is a sadhaka on the kanishta stage is not even called a sadhaka yet. He's called a pravartaka. He's just getting into it. Now, most probably you could understand this if you understood it in terms of not so much of those of us who have become converted and have taken to Krishna consciousness as a result of hearing and being convinced by the philosophy and so on. Previously we were something else. There are other people who are born in Krishna consciousness and who come up living, hearing about Radha and Krishna, and this is for them is the normal and natural thing in which they experience this is the way they think of God in this term. Now, the other day I was talking about Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. What is the meaning of Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam? When we say Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, is it an ontological statement? Or is it a theological statement? By saying it's an ontological statement, we mean that's the way it is. There's a Krishna up there, just like you have the model of the universe, there's 14 worlds, and then there's Viraja, and then beyond that there's Vaikuntha, and beyond Vaikuntha you have Shweta Dweep and Golok and Vrindavan, and all these things are contained within it. And so you look at that in a gross physical way, and you try to conceive of you conceive of the world in that gross, physical, actual, ontological, this is the way it is attitude. The other way, when you look at it symbolically, you say that no, the information that we're giving you about Krishna is representative of the highest form of God. In other words, the highest form of ideal. Now here we have to enter the question, what is God? And what I'm saying is that God is a theoretical, let's say, blank space, contentless, like zero, absolutely, in mathematics, that fills a particular void that is necessary to complete the picture. But that's a philosophical or a theological position. What I'm interested in, and what I believe that Jiva Goswami and Rupa Goswami are interested in, is in the psychological function of deity. And this is the Jungian position. So if you understand from Carl Jung where Carl Jung is coming from, then you'll get a bit of a better idea of what we talk about, what we mean when we talk about God. God is present in the mind. It's a subjective perception. Yad yad dhyata urugaya vibhavayanti tad tad vapuh pranayase sadanugrahaya. That whatever particular consciousness you approach God, therefore, yes, God is a projection that you are seeing, you are imputing or projecting or aropa, adhyaropa, particular characteristics to God that are a reflection of you as a human being. So we reflect fatherhood, we project fatherhood into God, we project love onto God, we project all these characteristics onto God. Why? Where is that projection coming from? What is projecting and where is it projecting? What is the screen onto which it is projecting? The screen is that absolute zero. It's that zero. It's that screen, that blank screen that we're projecting on. That blank screen is there. Brahman, Paramatman, Bhagavan, it's there. It's real. But the content that we give to it is a projection of our situation in this body, in this world. This is why from the very beginning, the critiques of theism in ancient Greece, they were saying, well, look, if a horse had a god, it would look like a horse. So we're human beings, so naturally we project the characteristics of humanity onto God. But God is sui generis. How can we possibly project those things onto God? Well, the reason we project those things onto God is because God functions in our psyche, has a psychological role. And that psychological role, Jung says, that psychological role is the role of the ego. And I'm saying that the ego here means ideal ego. So God somehow reflects the idealism or the sense of human perfection. There'd be no meaning to God if, for instance, in the certain concepts of God, deism and so on, God has no role to play. But those who are bhaktas, for them, they're convinced God does have a role to play. God is a part of my being. So where is God as a part of my being? Where is God? Well, just look at the Bhagavad Gita. Yat sreyasyat nishchitang bruhitan me shishyastehang shadhimam tvam prapannam. That God provides us with intelligence. Buddhi naksamidhan karotu. This is the pravartaka stage. This is the beginning stage. This is the individual stage. When I talk about pravartaka, sadhaka, and siddha, or when I talk about kanishta, madhyama, and uttama, I'm also using the words singular, dual, and plural. If you understand this, you'll get a good grasp of of how Sahajiyism is supposed to function. Pravartaka stage means that you're just beginning. And when you're just beginning, what is that? The just beginning means you're learning. Sambandha avideya and prayojan tattvas, this is about shaping your psyche to make it conducive to God realization. Right now your psyche is focused on other goals. But the actual function of human life is to attain love of God, prema bhakti. But prema bhakti, some of the sahajiyas, they use the words vartaman and anuman. And this is actually, although grammatically speaking, it doesn't work so well, because anuman and vartaman come from different etymological sources. But anuman means guessing, and vartaman means actually existing presently. So the pravartaka stage is otherworldly, mainly. Well, it's not entirely otherworldly, but it functions like that. That God is out there, something that I have to attain. And so I engage in all these activities in the hope of becoming God conscious, and becoming conscious of Krishna, and developing love for Krishna, and then I will see Krishna and I'll become a part of his world, and I'll leave behind this world of material miseries, this place of adhyatmic, adibautic, and adidaivik miseries, and I'll be free and liberated and back to Godhead. That's what we've been talking about. I'm saying to you that this is just the beginning stage. This is just a stage where you prepare your mind. And prepare your mind in what way? Prepare your mind to look at the world in a different way. I'm going to try to keep these conversations short. But let me just give you an inkling of what the madhyama stage is, and then I'll call it for today. The madhyama stage is where you start to make differentiation. Now, the whole point of the madhyama stage, let me, please, take this Bhagavatam that I have right here and read to you one verse. Now, this is just one verse in the Bhagavatam. The whole Bhagavatam, 18,000 verses, as we say, has so many subjects. Are all of these subjects relevant to us? Are all these subjects relevant to us here in the 21st century? What's relevant to us? And this is a verse that Vivekananda liked very much. And it's actually the whole chapter, the third canto, 29th chapter. What's the relevance of the third canto, 29th chapter? This is where Kapila Dev talks to Devahuti about the bhakti in sattva, rajas, and tamas. And this is something we're definitely going to have to discuss, because this breakdown of sattva, rajas, and tamas is very, very pertinent, not only where bhakti is concerned, but also where sex is concerned. Madhyamadikari. So that discussion is a discussion of, oh Lord, that's the wrong chapter. So the chapter 29 is about nirguna, sattva, rajas, and tamas bhakti. But the key to the understanding of this section comes when he says, Yatha vata rato granam avrinkte gandha ashrayat evam yogaratam cheta atmanam avikariyat aham sarveshu bhuteshu bhutatma avastitah sada tam avagyaya mam martya kuruter archa virambanam. So now he's talking, this is exactly where we are. We were just looking at the 11th canto and the verse on madhyama bhakta, right? And it was said that that Kanishta is engaged in archana, arche, shraddhaya upa, and anyway, the idea is that the Kanishta, the prakrita bhakta, is engaged in archa, but doesn't know how to deal with the prakrita, with the devotees, or with the anyeshu, with the others. So now here's what Kapila has to say in the third canto. Aham sarveshu bhuteshu bhutatma vastitah sada tam avagyaya mamartya kurute archa virambanam. So a person who worships the deity but does not respect or shows disrespect or somehow or another does not recognize the presence of God in all things, sarva bhuteshu, especially in other people, that person is doing a false presentation. It's not real archana. It's not real worship of God. He's fooling himself, Kapila Dev says. Yo mang sarveshu bhuteshu santamatmanam ishwaram hitvarchang bhajate modhyat basmanyeva juhoti sa. Someone who avoids worshipping the presence of God in other beings and instead chooses to worship the deity in the temple, that person is pouring ghee on ashes and is not actually worshipping God at all. Kurute archa virambanam. Dvishatah parakaye ma manino bhinna darshinah bhuteshu baddhavairasya namanah shanti mrichati. So the tamasic bhakta, he actually hates people. He actually hates God when manifested in other forms. Kanishta Bhakta, I'm not going to go on with that because it goes on here. Krishna doesn't stop. Kapila doesn't stop. Aham uchavachaya dravyai kriya yot pannayad nage naiva tushe chito chayam bhuta grama vamaninach. Even though you give me the best stuff, you may worship me with 64 upacharas. You may build 10,000-foot temples with 10,000-foot deities and worship them with the finest gold and silver and things of the world. But Krishna says, I'm not happy with it. If you disrespect my presence in other beings, then you missed the point. Archado archayet tavat ishwarang mam swakarma krit yavana naveda swahridi sarva bhuteshva vastitam. So now he says, only for as long as that worship in the temple is there, only for as long as you fail to see the presence of God in your own heart and fail to see the presence of God in the other. This is what, when you understand this passage, then you are ready to go from kanishta to madhyama. You are ready to go from pravartaka to sadhaka, and you are ready to go past your individual cutoff. Because here he's always saying, he uses the words here again. All through this chapter you see the word being used. What is it here? He used it was Bhinna Darshina. Prithak Drisha. The Bhinna Darshina. To see divisions. Ekam Advityam. There's only one truth, one God. And bhayang ditya binivesha taksyat. Fear, which leads to hate, comes from seeing things separate from God. So when you see karmis, and you see people who are somehow or another outside the psychological bubble that is God for you, as long as you can't see outside that psychological bubble, you have bhayam, you see duality, and so there is fear. And when there is fear, there is hate. Just like the way people talk about sahajism. Yes, we are the enemies. We are the enemies because we subvert your understanding of spiritual life. But in fact, we're not. In fact, we're opening the door to divine perception. And what is interesting about the Gaudiya Vaishnava system is that it says, in fact, whether you like it or not, that because we have Radha and Krishna, that we are engaging directly with the fundamental problem of human life, which is sexuality. And we're saying that that fundamental human problem of sexuality can be transformed through worship of Radha and Krishna, through the understanding that is given to you of Radha and Krishna. When you've actually you don't ever really complete any stage, because the pravartaka stage goes on. I mean, when you go on from the kanishta stage to the madhyama stage, you don't leave the kanishta stage behind as such. For instance, the archana, that goes on as symbol, myth, philosophy, theology. All those things are there. They're the basis, and they don't go away. They are refined. Your understanding of those things is refined. But the general format, the process, the involvement of those things in the path, you're involved in a path of spiritual realization. Those things are part of the path. You don't abandon them, but you abandon a certain misconception or misunderstanding, a certain gross conception, a gross conception that looks at everything literally as being, yes, that there is 10,000 miles that way, 10,000 miles this way, 10 million miles that way. There is Goloka, there's Vrindavan, there are all these things. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. I'm going to try to speak more directly about this subject. And I'm tired of being thought of as a fool. Jai Sri Radha.